Hello, everybody. Dan Rather here with a short burst of news, analysis, and commentary. The stage is now set for tonight to be a possible pivotal moment in the history of the Trump presidency, and, by extension, a pivotal moment in the history of our country. I cannot recall and do not believe there has ever been anything quite like this. This will be a power play from both sides, an on-screen fight for control of the national political narrative, control of the Washington agenda, and a prelude to the 2020 presidential campaign. Now, looming in the background are questions of whether Mr. Trump is to be indicted or impeached, whether he will or won't finish his first term in office, and or whether he will run and win re-election. As a way of partially putting all of this in some context and with some perspective, I would gently and respectfully suggest that you may want to consider the following thought. As long as President Trump's standing in public opinion polls is at 40% or better, he is, if not golden, at least assured of having the upper hand. Such is the power of the modern presidency and the power of having one's party stand behind you. For him to be in deep and perhaps decisively negative trouble, his poll numbers probably will have to plunge to 30% or below. Through all of the fog, you may want to use this as your guide, your measuring stick. In the early to mid-1970s, for all the revelations about the widespread criminal conspiracy known for shorthand as Watergate, President Richard Nixon survived, even thrived, in public support for a long time. That lasted, it's easy to forget, until early in 1973. It lasted until his poll numbers began first to get close, then fall below 30%. It wasn't until then, and it took a while, that his own Republican Party, especially Republican senators, turned on Nixon and forced his downfall. Tonight is unquestionably a big night for Donald Trump. He's got a lot riding on this address from the Oval Office. Like it or not, the border wall has suddenly become the symbol of his presidency. It might also be a monumental distraction of epic proportions because, as you've probably noticed, suddenly no one is talking about Russia. It took a government shutdown and wall-to-wall talk about a border wall. But potentially the biggest story of our lifetime is suddenly out of the headlines. And no doubt Donald Trump couldn't be happier about that. It took 800,000 government workers off the job and a, quote, emergency at our southern border. But Russia is suddenly way on the back burner. By the way, let's talk about that emergency for a second. Donald Trump is being given airtime tonight to sell this wall to a highly skeptical public. Public opinion so far has been against the wall. Now, why was the president given the airtime? Good question. As my old friend Joe Paranen, a former vice president at CBS News, said, the White House needs to answer, what is the emergency? What will make this anything more than a campaign speech without the crowds? And perhaps more importantly, what's to prevent President Trump from telling lie after lie? The answer is nothing can keep him from doing that. Interesting to note from the Washington Post, of all the subjects Mr. Trump has lied about, immigration is far and away number one. So tonight it might be best for the Republicans to wait for the fact checkers to add up the fabrications, if any, before pronouncing the president's speech a success. That's it for today. I'm Dan Rather. Thanks for your time. Courage.